Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope your year was filled with love and joy, and that you are catching up with all the great holiday movies like It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Story, The Holiday, and of course Die Hard. So as for me, a little boasting here, The Good Place is nominated for an Art Directors Guild Award. Yay! I'm nominated with the production designer Ian Phillips, the art director Adam Rao, the graphic designer Graham Radcliffe, and the set designer Camille. I'm not even going to attempt your last name. Sorry, girl. We're very excited, and I hope we win because I've been nominated 5 times. They've eluded me 5 times, and so I'm hoping this 6th time is the charm. Hope so. Fingers crossed. I finished filming Moxie this week, the feature that I've been working on for Netflix, and it's been a great experience. Amy Poehler is directing this film, and it's about teenage female empowerment and how the strength of an idea that people believe in can change minds and can, change history. I was on Parks and Rec when Amy directed an episode, and it's like, oh, cool, that'll be fun. But this time, to get this opportunity to watch her produce and direct this cast, it's been a real lesson just watching her. It's weird to say that I'm proud of her, because it's a weird thing to say. I guess I'm proud to be a part of the film and what it represents. And it was very female empowered behind the camera. I also have to applaud Netflix for that. I think I heard that the film will be out next fall, so I hope you'll check that out. In the new year, I'm going to have a bonus episode talking about The Good Place with my fellow nominees, and we're going to talk about the episode that we were nominated for. So that should be fun, early January. And also my good friend, Ethan Goodwin, who is a set deck buyer, and we have worked on and off together for years. He loves to leave me for bigger and better projects, but I still love him. I'm really excited because he has a hell of a resume, including Gone Girl, the upcoming show Perry Mason, For All Mankind, Homecoming, Good Place, Veep, Parks and Rec, of course. But he's a phenomenal buyer, and I'm excited because I haven't had a buyer on yet. So the description of that position is vital in my world. So I'm really happy that he'll be able to talk to you about it. This is an episode with the set decorator David Smith. I'm giving you 2 of them. David likes to talk, but he's so interesting that I found it very hard to edit, and I found it even harder, especially to edit this first episode, because he talks a lot about how he got into this business and the struggles of being in New York and Los Angeles and his getting into the union. So I want people to hear that, because that's part of the problem when you start out in this business of how am I going to get in. So I found it very interesting in that aspect for anyone who's interested in that. David has a 30-plus year career set decorating. Films like Crazy Stupid Love, Little Fockers, Imagine That, The Holiday, Shopgirl. He talks also about his TV work, which his latest was Unbelievable on Netflix, which I thought was a phenomenal piece of work. Parenthood, Army Wives, The Guardian, throwback to NYPD Blue and LA Law, even a little Guiding Light and As the World Turns. I have come to know him through the SDSA, and he was kind enough to help me out on Veep last season when I suddenly left to have twins, but I knew he was coming on. It was just more sudden than we thought. He has been nominated for 3 Emmys and 4 Daytime Emmys. He's such a sweet and generous man who has great taste and an abundance of finely, I don't know how to say it. He wears a good paisley shirt. Let's put it that way. So there is a little pizzazz in his shirts, which I appreciate. And a little surprise, once again, invoking my learning curve here with this podcast. My mic didn't really pick up my voice as much as I would want it to, so apologies. I hope you enjoy. David Smith. Hi.
Hi, Kim. I'm Kim One-Up. How are you?
I'm so good. It's always so good to see your smiling face.
Thank you. And vice versa.
No, I'm a little tired today. Been up since 3:30. So that's awesome. You are enjoying a little bit of a break.
I am.
From your very busy schedule of just taking over Hollywood at this point. Every hot new show that's on David Smith has a hand in, I think.
Well, two of them, thanks to you.
Well, you took over so graciously, and thank God they gave it back to me, because it was touch and go, I think, for a little bit, but that was fun.
Yeah.
Dave, I should say, David filled in for me on the last episode of Veep when I suddenly took to the hospital to have twins. David had planned on coming in, so it wasn't that big of a surprise, but it was a surprise that his first day was my last day, and I didn't have much contact with him, and he just sort of jumped in and took over and was amazing, and nominated for an Emmy for his work also, so...
Which was a big surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was on break, and everyone loved David so much. It was an easy push, easy little tug to say, could David Smith come in? And they were very happy to see your smiling face on the first 4 or 5 episodes of The Good Place. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Because you left me some wonderful sets that I just take credit for. So yes. I'm going to start like I usually do. How did you get started in this waggy little world of ours?
Well, I think I've said it many times, but I wanted to be an actor. I was in a play in the 3rd grade, and I really liked that. And all during high school and a little bit of junior high school, I worked at the community theater. And then I was in the drama club in high school. And I was also a fairly good art student. And I tried, I knew that I couldn't go to college because my parents we were very poor and I didn't have any money. So I applied to the Cleveland Art Institute, and they accepted me as a painter. But I couldn't afford to go, and I applied in Cleveland because I had a sister who lived in Cleveland at the time.
And where are you from?
South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. And so they accepted me, and then I auditioned for the North Carolina School of the Arts as an actor, and they accepted me, but I didn't have money for either. So after high school, I had a summer job, and I saved a little bit of money, and I went to Greenville Tech and took a drafting course. During the morning and in the afternoons, I worked at an architectural firm as a print boy, where I ran the Xerox machine, new technology at that point, and the blueprint machine and cut prints.
Ammonia.
Yes.
Filling the machine with the ammonia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I went home and had a nap after my mother gave me supper, and got up and went to the theater, the community theater. So it was kind of terrific. Yeah, full day.
Full day.
And then somehow I heard about the Cleveland Playhouse, and I wrote a letter, and they accepted me as an acting apprentice. And so I quit my job, making $85 a week in 1966, and
Gave it all up.
went to Cleveland to work for $40 a week as an apprentice in the theater. And I had a great time. And at the end of that year, the producer said to me that I was a nice enough person, but I wasn't much of an actor. And I got pissed off, and I went back home to South Carolina, and at the end of my summer, I decided that I would go back to Cleveland after all, and ended up spending 14 years at the Cleveland Playhouse, where I became a prop master. And a prop master in theater does what it's the combination of work that a prop master and a set decorator do in film and television.
The scenery plus props.
Well, dressing, set dressing, essentially. I never built the walls or designed the walls, and then I would do all the hand props and what the actors carry. And it was a good stepping stone to, and then quite by chance, in 1978, a movie came to Cleveland to work at a summer stock company there, and Claudia Rebar was the decorator on it, and it was a movie called Those Lips, Those Eyes, and they needed a theater prop room, and someone got in touch with me, and I was not working that summer. I was on unemployment, and they came to me and they rented set dressing from the theater for $1,000, and then they also paid me $1,000 for the labor, and I thought, oh, this is a fair amount of money, since I had never only made $200 a week doing theater.
And I still make that today.
Yes, probably very true, counting inflation. Yes, exactly. But anyway, and so I spent a fair number of years in Cleveland, as I said, 14 years, and then I got a job. I was pretty ambitious, and I got a job at the Metropolitan Opera, which took me to New York, and I had dallied in costume design as well as some set design in Cleveland, and I got a job at the Metropolitan Opera working in the costume department as a buyer, shopper, and dyer, and I ended up working 6 whole weeks at the Met for $250 a week, living in New York, which was a little difficult, but thanks to friends, I couch surfed, and then I had sublet after sublet, and I had originally then I had written to CBS, and CBS had said to me that I seemed to have qualifications to be a set decorator, and if I was in New York, I should look them up. And
wait, CBS, like the network?
The network.
You just wrote a blank letter?
I wrote a blank
CBS?
letter.
Okay.
I wrote a blank letter in 1978 to CBS, ABC, and NBC. And ABC and NBC wrote me back saying that they didn't use set decorators in television. And later I found out that meant they didn't use them in daytime television.
Right.
CBS said, yes, we do have set decorators, and if you're in New York, look us up. So at the end of that season in 1978, I went to New York, and I saw the woman who wrote me a letter, and she said, if you were here, I'm sure we would hire you. So,
wow.
And I don't remember all the details, it's so long ago, but somehow I took it upon myself to find a way to get to New York. That's how I got the job at the Met. And so when I got to New York, I started the Met job, and then the Met went out on strike, but the musicians did, and I went to CBS, and they said, great, we'll keep you in mind, and when something comes up, we'll call you. And they did.
And they did.
Yep, and I spent a little over 8 years at CBS doing soap opera, and doing fill-in work as well before I did soap opera. I did a little bit of Search for Tomorrow, and then I did like 2 years on The Guiding Light and 3 years on As the World Turns.
I look at daytime TV and think that's probably one of the best places to start.
You learn a lot.
Because you learn a lot quickly.
You do.
You got to turn it around as quick as those actors have to learn all that dialogue.
Right.
You got to turn around those sets. One of the good things I think that helps is that they're only 3-wall sets, basically.
Right. For the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
Sidebar. I once went to CBS here on Beverly, Television City, and saw, I can't remember what soap it is, But I was amazed because it was an aisle where the cameras went, like almost like a shopping aisle.
Right.
Where the cart goes. And on either side are all the 3-wall sets. And I was like, oh my God, I never would have thought, but how easy. All right, now we're in Janet's house. All right, now we're in the bar. All right, now we're down here. So I was so amazed when I saw that and thought, God, that's how they get it so quickly.
Yeah.
Because they just turn it around. I mean, I don't know if anybody even watches soaps anymore, which is sin. I think there's only 2 left.
Yeah, I think there are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too bad because it was a good learning ground for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of good actors came out of soap opera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
Yeah, and we were doing...
Kim Delaney.
We were doing 2 sessions a day. So in the morning, you would do what sets you could fit into the studio, and then in the afternoon, they'd break for lunch, and then while the company was at lunch, the stagehands would come in and knock all those down and put up other new sets, and we did an afternoon session. It was crazy. It was the hot time for the soaps, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Early 80s. Really,
Yeah.
All My Children.
Yeah.
As I said, Kim Delaney.
Yeah. I have a good actor friend who was on All My Children, and she still gets people who remember that. So.
Who was it?
Liz McKay. You were probably just a little too young. Do you remember Dr. Joe?
No.
Yeah.
Now, when Kim was on it, I watched it all the time.
Right.
I don't know. I think I was supposed to be in school. I know that I got to stay home the day she died. My mom and my grandmother and I sat and watched her blow up on a jet ski or something. And it was kind of dramatic, being like, what's going on? And then she was in a hospital. Like, I just remember all of that so vividly, of like, just in awe of her. Like,
right.
You know, because I was younger. I was 7 or 8, I think, at the time. So, yeah. No, the soaps were huge.
Yeah. So just for people who don't know, Kim Delaney
is my second cousin.
Right.
Yes. And then David and I also tie in later on because he did NYPD Blue.
Right. And Kim Delaney's first, I think her first day was also her first episode was also my first episode on NYPD Blue.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
So you're there.
So.
And then how do you get into like TV and or film, like union wise? How did you transition to union?
Well, in New York, as I said, I was pretty ambitious.
I think you have to be. I think one of the things that you keep saying, which I think is very important, is ambition and timing.
Right.
We have to coincide for it all to work for us.
Right. And I think we're all lucky in some way. If we're working in this industry, if we've had a career, somebody has helped us. We've been in the right place at the right time. And yeah.
I think that too is we all, at least I do, try to help other people. Yeah. Because I wouldn't be here if someone didn't help me.
No, absolutely. I'm always good about that, is trying to offer help and to listen. So in New York, in the 1980s, there was a competitive union to the IA. So at CBS, the first couple of years at CBS, I worked non-union, and I was essentially a permit, and I was a per diem. But CBS had their own individual little local for set decorators in New York, and it was Local 1A. And the big stagehands union was Local 1, and they also did theater. Local 1 in New York and Local 4 in Brooklyn for theater. And then Local 52, IATSE Local 52, there were set decorators, or actually we were called outside property masters, because there's no classification in New York for set decorators as such. There's a credit, but not in the union terminology. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to get into Local 52. So I went and someone told me that the test wasn't very difficult, and I thought, okay. So I went and I took the test, and I missed a couple of things on it, but my name came up for vote, and I didn't get in. And the test at that time was very simple. I had to say, what was a pancake, what was an apple box, what is a philodendron, what is a jaguar, and how do I tie a bowline. And
I'm out.
yeah.
I'm out. I know one thing you just said, basically. And I think I know what a pancake is. Like,
I know you know what a pancake is now. You know, a pancake is a small, like a quarter of an apple box.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Or
I know
like
what
a
an
thin.
apple box
You know, yeah, you know, an apple box. Well, there's an apple, half apple.
half apple.
Yeah, and so then the pancake is a little bigger, a little thinner portion of that. But anyway, so obviously, well, sometimes the locals can be. I can be a little. It helps to be born in the right family, shall I say?
Yeah.
Nepotism, you know.
With any
yeah,
union and
yeah,
or, you
yeah.
know,
With any nepotism helps.
mafia.
Yeah. And so those of who don't have the nepotism, we have to figure out how to get in.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't get in, but I was working at CBS, and then there was a competitive union called NABIT, NABIT Local 15, and NABIT was the National Association of Broadcasting Engineers and Technicians, and they had set up a competitive union to the IATSE Local 52, and they were now doing movies and television, and they had just done a big movie called Hester Street, and I met Leslie Rollins, who was the set decorator for that, and he was NABIT, and I decided that I would try to get into NABIT. So I thought, okay, I now know what an apple box is and all of that.
Right.
So and I said, I'm going to take the test. And someone said to me, oh, did you study for the exam, the test? And I said, no. And they said, you better study because it's like really hard. And
For
they
the
said,
NABIT test.
yeah. And I said, oh, really? And they said, yeah, it takes, a good 4 to 5 hours to do the test, and you have to answer all these questions, and there's a ton of true and false questions. You have to, one of the things that I had to do on the test was, how do you decorate an empty room?
Well, that's subjective.
Well, it was about, I learned, and, it's putting in the light switches and, the phone boxes and the ceiling fixtures and the sconces and the curtain rod brackets.
What's the
and
set? Did they tell you what the set? Was it a classroom? Was it an office?
No. But it was just an essay, so you just had to do it.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and then you had to identify.
And over there you had to do carpet and glass.
Yeah, and plants.
And plants.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
greens and sometimes cars.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, in soap opera we did cars as well.
On the set that
Yeah.
they would do for like
Yeah.
blue screen and whatever.
Yeah.
God,
Our green screen. Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, I did get into NABIT.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
You passed the hard test.
on the first time, exactly.
There you go.
And then my I kept bringing my name up to vote for the Local 52 test, and over 5 times I never got in. So, as fate would have it, my first movie I did in New York was 1984. I had not gone on staff at CBS. I was still working as a per diem. And in 1984, I did several Broadway shows, and I did several off-Broadway shows, and I did part of the year on a soap opera, and I did a movie. And my first movie in New York was called Key Exchange, and it was a NABIT movie. And after Key Exchange, CBS offered me a job and to go on staff.
Now they want you.
Now they wanted me, and so it was like, okay, I took the job, but what happened was, then I got fired from the soap operas. I got fired, and when I say fired from the soap operas, the same producer fired me from both soap operas. He was doing As the World Turns, and I got fired from that. And then he took over The Guiding Light later, and I got fired from that.
Wow. There you go. Just couldn't.
Yeah.
You just didn't like the sconce.
No. It's all very political and about money.
It usually is.
Yeah.
It usually has nothing to do
Yeah.
with the fantastic job you put on the screen.
Yeah.
And something other than that.
Yeah. The last season my last time on Guiding Light, we had a storyline where Kim and I think Josh crashed on a desert island. I'm sorry, it wasn't a desert island. It was an island, and it was a lot of jungle. And somehow there was a Jeep there, and they drove the Jeep through and cut down palm trees and with machetes and crashed their way through. And then we had a big beach, and it was in the middle of winter, and we spent a ton of money on greenery.
I mean, that sounds fun, but
it was hard. It was hard.
Not really. If you're doing the greens, sounds like fun because the greensmen would do it, not me. That's like Lost.
Yeah.
But then we talked to Carol Kelly about it, and I'm always like, "Oh, that was no. It was hard. You were on a beach every day. Everything was sand. Everything was in this jungle and making a jungle and."
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Those elements that you think are like, oh, that's fun. No, it's not.
But but you really appreciate what a good greensman can do and does do.
And make sense of it all.
Yeah.
That's especially in situations like that where there's a Jeep all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But that's soap opera world. There could be a Jeep. There could be a plane. It could have been anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get there, and then how do you get to LA?
So after I got fired the second time from soap opera, I spent a couple of years in New York bumming around and just doing freelance. I was doing commercials mostly. And I went for a movie interview. Well, NYPD withdrew their charter in New York. And so I had gotten into Local 15 and NYPD. And then NYPD withdrew their charter, and a group of us got together, a group of set decorators, and we, along with some other people, were involved with trying to decide whether we were going to join the IBEW or whether we were going to go with the IATSE. Mm-hmm. And at that point, the IA was pretty much the sort of bitter enemies of NYPD. And there were half the faction thought that we should not go with the IA because they had rejected all of us to begin with, and the other half felt that that was the better answer. So ultimately what happened is the people in NYPD were absorbed into Local 52. And so I had paid initiation dues to get into NYPD, but I didn't have to pay to get into Local 52 because we were all grandfathered in. And then, so I only did one movie as NYPD, and I never did a movie in New York as NYPD. I mean, as IATSE. And then, but I was doing lots of commercials. And then there had been some boycott by producers of New York because of the Teamsters. There was something in the contract that they didn't like, and there'd been a big slowdown. So everybody in New York sort of dropped down one notch. So the people doing the really big movies were doing small movies, and small movies people were doing, bigger commercials, and then it just pushed everybody down. And I didn't have a lot of contacts because I'd lost about 5 years of networking by working in soap opera. Right. But I went for a movie interview, and I didn't get the job, and I knew that I should have gotten the job, and the designer that I spoke with, he knew that I was the right person for the job, and instead they went with a young woman who was fairly young and inexperienced, but who's very well established today, and she got the job. And I got annoyed, and I went home, and I made a reservation. It was winter, and I made a reservation to come to LA shortly after the holidays. And I took all my savings, and I came out here in 91, and but one good thing had happened. I knew that I had CBS out here, and I could always go to work at CBS because I had worked a little bit out here on The Young and the Restless. And NYPD had said to us in New York, when they pulled the charter, you can transfer your East Coast membership to the West Coast. And just a few of us did that, Leslie Rollins and I.
Wow, that is huge.
That's huge. I didn't realize how huge it was.
Oh my gosh. Because it's very hard to go from one union to the other.
Yeah.
And you joined one and then got into another two, really.
Yeah. And then this is the crazy part. And so then I come out here to LA, and I have a really hard first year. Not really. I shouldn't say that. I had a hard time on the second year. The first year I came, and an actor friend of mine was doing a series, and she said, "Why don't you go meet Ed Stevenson and Michael Hines?" And they were doing The Golden Girls and Blossom and Herman's Head. And I got hired at non-union, but a job that was out here and gave me a whole 22 episodes. And I did a season of Herman's Head and Blossom.
Which I
and
love.
and then
shows.
yeah and that worked a little bit while I was here first. And then at some point during all of this, NABIT pulled the charter in LA, local 30, not local 33. The NABIT local pulled the charter here, and we got absorbed into local 44.
Wow. I mean, I don't know if anyone can really comprehend how lucky that is.
No.
On both coasts.
Oh, I know. And then on top of that, I then took the 829 United Scenic Artist exam in New York, and I because one year, the last year of The Guiding Light, we worked under the 829 contract as an allied.
Is that videotape? Because I know when I worked on Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, there's like some videotape sort of contract that it's not really.
Yeah. It wasn't a videotape contract as such, but it was definitely, the product was videotape. Yeah.
You said Blossom.
Right.
Do you know the influence you had on teenage girls? I mean, for two, the wardrobe of Blossom for me, but the room and everything was so influential.
It was all set when I arrived.
But you kept it going.
I kept it going.
There's always a thing, because I come into a lot of shows too, and I'm like, well, I didn't really do that, but you keep it going and you keep the integrity going. And was it fun? Was it a fun show?
Yeah. Well, it was great fun to be working, in LA. I did that with another. We were working as assistant art directors, and I got hired basically to work as a set decorator on the two shows. And Roland Rosenkrantz got hired as also an assistant art director, non-union. And he did more of the dealing with the more like not an art director. So he dealt with the walls and the painting. And
so you did two at the same time because they had different tape nights?
Yes, but they were on the same lot, and they were both Whit Thomas Harris shows, and they were both at Sunset Gower.
And Herman's Head was so much fun.
Well, I loved Herman's Head. I did do the first season of that, so I had a little bit of hand in creating the look of that.
And then they ripped it off in that cartoon, whatever that was, like a couple of years ago. It's the same thing, the little voices in your head, and when it was all the cartoon characters. Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun.
That was a good run.
It was fun.
And then you went into NYPD Blue?
No. Then there was a decorator named Bill Harp in town, and Bill Harp had come from New York, and he had been a well-established set decorator in New York at CBS, and here in Los Angeles he also owned a company called Prop Services West, and he had done moonlighting. And then he took over, I think, on the 7th season, maybe the 6th and 7th season of LA Law. And
you did LA Law.
And he, for some reason, either he opted not to come back for the 8th season, or they opted for him not to come back. So we had a mutual friend named Wes Laws, and I had gone to see Wes in Palm Springs. And Bill Harp also had a house in Palm Springs. And while I was there that weekend, he told Wes that he was not going to go back to LA Law.
And did you raise your hand really quick?
Wes Laws, my friend Wes Laws, and Bill were talking, and they both thought that I should maybe meet with Michael Mayer, who was the designer at that time of
Who
LA
I
Law.
also worked with.
Yes. 3 degrees of separation
Yes,
right here.
yes. I gotta get him on this.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
that would be great fun.
He would never. I don't think he would ever do it.
Yeah, he would.
Would he?
Yeah,
Oh, God.
yeah.
He's such
Yeah.
a hoot. Okay, so you meet Michael Mayer.
So I had gotten into 44, but I did not have my. This was really crazy. They absorbed us, but I still had to get days to get rostered.
Because they wanted their money.
Yeah, but I didn't offer them it. I didn't have any money to give it. Anyway, it's murky the history of this now in my head. But anyway, I do know that I met Michael, and he gave me the seal of approval, and I met the producers the following Monday. All this happened on Saturday.
Wow.
Saturday, and then I came back to
That's a
LA,
busy
and I met
weekend.
Michael on Sunday, and then I went to meet people at Fox on Monday, and they hired me.
Were you a fan of LA Law?
Yeah.
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 I made up words to the theme song.
Oh, you did?
Because I was obsessed.
Well,
I don't know, I was like 8 or 10 or something, and I was obsessed with that show.
Well, I've heard you talk about how you were obsessed with TV, but
Oh my God,
yeah.
Yeah, I could probably, if I put the theme song on, I might be able to like remember a few of my lyrics. But
Oh, I can
that's
see
how
the
much-
dementia
because
down
Kim
the
was on
line.
it.
Yeah.
Kim was on LA Law.
Yeah.
1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because that's how she knew Jimmy Smits.
Yeah.
For NYPD. But I watched it before then. Yeah, I don't know. My parents just let me watch TV. I don't know. They wanted somebody to hang out with, I guess. 10 o'clock was like the best time all the good shows came on at 10 o'clock.
Do you remember when Rosalind fell down the elevator
Yes.
shaft? Oh my
Yes.
God.
It was
I
stunning.
I jumped up out of my seat, I think.
It was so unexpected and something that's done a lot today
Right.
to surprise viewers. But that was like,
Yeah, major. It was major.
what just happened?
Yeah, yeah.
What just happened?
I remember at the time, people used to talk about that LA Law was like the water cooler conversation the
Oh,
next
yeah.
day, you know.
Harry Hamlin. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah.
Benny. Oh my God, so many good characters.
Oh, I know.
I
Really
might
good.
rewatch that. Actually, I wonder if they have it.
They do. I think,
do?
yeah.
I would rewatch that.
Yeah.
See if it holds up.
Yeah, yeah.
I bet it does. I mean, actually, to see Los Angeles now that I live here would be interesting too. Because there's always things like you look back at least I do, movies of like old LA, and I'm like, oh my God, that's how I used to live on that block. Oh my God, look at that. Like,
Yeah.
It's so crazy that I live in a place that I was obsessed with for so long.
What?
Or I'm a part of this. It's crazy to me. But yeah.
No, which is great. But that show was really terrific because we were at the Fox lot, and it was 90, 92, 93, and it was still pretty much operating like the old studio system. We had a fair number of set dressers. We had many trucks. The set decorator had a van and a driver, and
Golden age.
and the fixture department came in and did all the fixtures on stage for you, and the drapery department came in and hung all the drapes, and there was a nursery still at Fox,
Wow.
and they came and did all the plants.
Full service.
Full service.
There's
Yeah.
no lots like that anymore.
Not anymore.
How many sets do you think you had per episode on that? You think five?
I don't think more than 3 or 4.
I'm trying to think.
I think even 2 might have pushed it some days.
Push Michael Mayer over the edge.
No. I remember not being very busy because,
Oh, that's great.
yeah. It was nice. It was
You're
nice.
on LA. You're not really busy.
Yeah, and then that was the earthquake. So that was the Northridge earthquake.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And how did that affect? Did anything fall?
Well, I remember coming to work, and they were doing picket fences on the lot as well.
Oh, right.
And I saw the UPM. Well, I had come out here. Let me back up a little bit. I had come out here once before, very briefly, to work on The Young and the Restless in the '80s. And while I was here, there was an earthquake at CBS in the '80s. And so I knew what the sensation was. So when the North earthquake happened, I was living in an apartment, my first apartment that I rented by myself in LA, and I felt the rattling and I heard the crashing, and I got up and I saved a couple of things. I heard a few things got broken, and then I took a shower in the dark, and I walked up to my car, and I got in my car and I drove to Fox because we had an early call. And when I arrived at the gate,
that's how sick we all are.
I know.
That's why I worked until the day I delivered. We're sick. We gotta get to work.
Well,
I gotta do it. I gotta get done.
I mean, I didn't know that the city was, that it was
did they
major.
let you on the lot?
Yeah, they did. They
It was
did.
open.
They did.
Oh.
And I remember the UPM was a little annoyed from picket fences because no one was showing up.
Oh, wow.
And so then we learned basically that the reason why it was because people could damage. Yeah, it was a big one. It was a big one. So but then Billy Finkelstein wrote the earthquake into the story at LA Law.
I don't know if I remember that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably if I saw
So we didn't clean up a lot of the rubble. There wasn't a major amount, but there was definitely some damage.
Oh, he wrote it into that episode you were shooting.
Yeah.
Wow. So you didn't have to.
Yeah.
That would have been bad if it was just like a couple pictures.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
off.
No, well, I think we brought in a little bit of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he did write it in.
Oh.
So.
Wow. God, no, I mean, that, like, 30-something, I don't know.
Oh.
I was huge fans of, like...
I loved
Twin
30-something.
Peaks.
I loved 30-something.
Yeah, I love 30-something.
Yeah.
I always try to find that house over in Hancock Park. Because I know it's there somewhere. So then...
So...
Did that bring you to NYPD Blue?
So while I was doing NYPD Blue... now, I have to back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
I know, I keep jumping ahead.
You know this story a little bit as well. So I had worked with a designer in New York by the name of Richard Hankins.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard Hankins, his wife at that time was in the soap opera. She was in Guiding Light. And she came out here and he came out here and he was looking for work. And somehow both he and I had tracked down Paul Eads, as you know, who was the designer on a show called Civil Wars. Mm-hmm. And
which is also Botchko.
Which was Botchko, exactly.
I didn't watch Civil Wars.
Yeah, I did. I did. I liked it. And Billy Finkelstein was one of the producers on that. Anyway, so I went to meet Paul, and Richard went to meet Paul, and it was discussed at that time that because NYPD Blue was so heavy, doing so many sets in so many locations, that there was a possibility that Paul really wanted to have 2 art directors and 2 set decorators. He felt it was necessary for the production. Well, of course, by today's standards, that
I know. I was just gonna ask.
it didn't happen.
I was gonna ask how many sets is busy then.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't think more than 6 or 7 an episode, if that.
But that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, to really
as opposed to 28 or
Yeah.
It's really hard. I obviously Paul didn't get to hire anybody else. Mm-hmm. But I was working on LA Law, and we shared the same art department as not only some of Picket Fences was in that same art department, and
was
LA
this
Law.
the art department above stage 5?
No, it was
big
before
one?
that. It was in the old, right across from stage 9, I think.
Because that's like
They used to be old dressing rooms.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of like Warner Brothers where all of the art departments were together.
Right.
When I first worked at Sony, the art department was all together. There was like Spider-Man and
Right.
Other TV shows, and it was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like an art department hangout. It was good. You got to meet other people. You got to see what other shows were doing. It was great.
And I think working on the lot still offers you that,
Yeah.
because you get to go and you get to see what other people are doing. You poke your head in and
Yes.
you chat and
Yes.
you see. But I got to know Paul and Marianne Biddle, the set decorator, on that a little bit, and they were talking about doing a pilot for a new show called Murder One, and if that got picked up, then they would need somebody to take over. So the next season they needed an art director, and so I did one season of LA Law, and then my friend Richard at that time took over as an art director, or came in as the art director on the second season of NYPD Blue. And then halfway through that season, Paul and Marianne were going to go do Murder One. And Richard then took over for Paul. And then I came in and I took over for Marianne. And in the interim, after my season on LA Law, I did half a season of a show called Burke's Law, and it's revived state.
I mean, that's a nice little domino effect.
Absolutely. And I got that because of Bob Ziliox, who was the president of the SDSA that had newly formed, and he and I was part of that organization from the very beginning.
So it's been 26 years now. So this time that you're trying to get into like your shows and everything, you're also a part of starting the Set Decorator Society of America.
Yeah, but of course we didn't know that it was going to become what it's become. It was just a group of us around at that time talking about issues and trying to. It was all started. The Set Decorator Society of America was started basically because of the breakup of the studio system, and when there was a big art department at Fox and a big art department at Sony and a big art department, as you said, at Universal and Warner Brothers, and they knew each other, but you essentially got work on the lot that way because of those contacts. And then with all the other with the breakup of all that, some well-established decorators in town felt like they were losing ground and weren't maintaining the respect, and so just not I don't think anybody was totally disrespectful about it. It's just that the working conditions were changing because the business has changed drastically.
And look, I mean, you're going like 1 hours and half hours. We all have different demands and everything, and it's very easy for our positions to be, the art director could do that if they wanted it. I'm sure in that time because look, production design wasn't even a title.
Right.
I mean, the art directors worked for that also.
Right.
So I know that the decorators that got together had nothing but great intentions, and we all still do, of just keeping our craft and holding it to a higher ground of standards that we want to uphold as set decorators.
Well, and not only that, it's to instill in the younger members, the younger decorators who are coming in, about what the responsibility is and how and what the job requirements are. I mean, there no longer is an exam on any in any craft. I mean, there might be a few that you have to do. I think special effects have some things that they have to do to get certified.
We have to take a lot of like for our union, for our IATSE, we have to take a bunch of like classes and stuff like that. But that's not what's an apple. That's not like
or what style of furniture, or
what period is this chair from?
Is this suitcase 1940, or is this 1920, or is this 1970?
Right. Which I think would be good, and not that I want to hold younger people to a higher standard than I didn't have to do. I gladly would have taken a test.
Oh yeah.
So it's not because it wasn't there for me to take. So I gladly think that it should be something that is a good thing. Yeah. Well,
but I think obviously, I mean, we're just chatting, so who knows where we're going to go with this conversation. But I think all of us you learn something on every project.
Yes.
And so the more variety that you have in the projects, the more you learn. And none of us knew all this to begin with. And and I certainly knew a lot coming into it because I'd had 14 years of theater, and I knew a fair amount about it, period work. And I also bought a lot of antiques at the time because that's all that I could afford. It was just secondhand, tossed off stuff. And I had good relationships with a lot of vendors. And I found out that Victorian furniture was sort of my like and my specialty, and I learned a lot about it. But we all learn by doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say that for me, Bones was the best first decorating job I could have had because they were huge sets.
Right.
Which was, if I look at it now, I'm like, how did you do that? Because it was an exploded hotel room, or a plane went down,
right.
Or we're in this a Chinese alley,
right.
Or we're in Tokyo, whatever. There were so many diverse things that I got to do. It was like a decorating school.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic for me.
Yeah.
And sort of playing into, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm pretending to know what I'm doing.
Sure.
But it was a real like learning on the job.
Well, I mean, you say pretend, but I think one does have to own that you're doing it, and so you have to find a way to do it. So I think you can't be intimidated by it. You can't be so scared that you're moving in your tracks. I mean, I do think as a young decorator, and until you get, I'm old, been around a long time. I no longer have the fear that, oh my God, how am I going to pull this off? Although I do think many times, oh, how are we going to pull that off in this length of time?
Yeah.
And there's always serendipity that comes into play, which I don't understand how that happens. But when you're young, I think the first couple of days on every job, you're just very scared about like, oh my God, it's pretty intimidating. Will I be able to ever do this one? And you find a way. You definitely find a way.
I mean, I still get like, did I get enough smalls? Did they pull enough small? Like,
yeah.
That whole thing of, do I have enough? Oh, I got too much. Ooh, get that back in the truck. Get it back in the truck. I got too much. I don't want anybody to see. Don't unpack those boxes. I pulled too much. But I mean, I still do it. I just did it like last week.
Yeah. Well, I think until recently, I've never had way more than enough. And I think the last thing that I did, I went a little overboard. So
I forget what it was, but I did say to the dressers, like, stop unpacking.
Yeah, I've had enough. I've got enough.
Much. Well, I think too, also, you get into a set and you edit.
Yeah.
So, and on this project, I'm 25 miles away, and it's shooting that day. I don't have time.
No.
So there is always that thing too of safety.
Of course.
Extra pulls. And
definitely.
Stuff like that. Just bring. I'm sorry, guys. I have to bring 2 sofas. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And part of that is if you only have one day to dress it.
Yeah.
You're moving in. You have a day to dress it, and the next morning they shoot. And you're 25 miles out. You might start at 4 o'clock and you might finish at 6 o'clock throwing stuff into the set, and which is great. And so the prop house is all closed between 5 and 6, and you hope that if you run long or the director wants more or whatever happens, you have a few extra.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And you definitely have to have that, but there's so much uncertainty, and part of the hassle, the thing that I don't like about the accelerated pace is that what's really nice if you have a few more days to put things into a set and then walk away from it and then come back, let it breathe.
Your eyes don't.
And then
your eyes go to.
Yes, and then you can start to do that final last layer at that point.
But I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm on a film. I thought it'd be different, and it's not. It's not. I'm doing tomorrow. We have three sets. Like, it's multiple sets a day.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know.
Yeah.
And construction. We're all on this tight budget of like the prep and the wrap and everything. So. I don't, at least on this film, I don't know I'm getting any more time than I usually do, which stinks.
Yeah. I don't think there's very much difference between movies and television at the moment. I mean, unless you're at the top tier. You happen to have a really...
Like the Avengers, do you think they're getting like a week to dress something? I don't know.
I would say, yeah, probably, but I would say that if you asked the crew on the Avengers, do they have enough time? And they would say no. Do they have enough money? They would all say no. Because I don't think, no matter how many zeros or where the commas are, or the decimal point, there's never quite enough. But you find a way.
That's... Well, look at Veep.
Yeah. Yeah.
How ridiculous it was. And I tried to warn you.
I know, but I didn't believe you. But yes, it was crazy. It was crazy.
That one season we did 43 sets in one episode. I was on the soundstage crying.
Yeah.
Crying. Yeah. Between we had like 9 sets in one day, and I had to keep switching, like progressing this one set. And so they would turn around and I'd have to dress it, and then I'd dress it this way, and then and I like broke down. I was like, this is insane. If there's things like, where is this? Where is that poster? Where is this? And then you're like, I don't have time. I have to make it up. I have to do something else. And it's like every single one in my department has to be on their A game.
Yeah.
In situations like that. And on Beep, we had to be on our A game from the day we started prepping till the day we shut down. There was no breaks. It was so exhausting.
You never clear the hurdle.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Never got like a proper gold room. You know what I mean? Like, never had time to put away any of those purchases. Or like, where's that lamp? Oh no. All right, gone. Buy another one. We don't have time. I don't have time. Just buy another one.
I've been in that situation. Yeah.
But it's I guess it's like childbirth. You forget, and then you're like, oh, I miss Veep. Oh man, remember when we were all together in it together?
But that show for you especially, you were very appreciated on that.
I think the art department, the production designer, I think we were.
Yeah.
I think it came from the design that Jim Gloucester had, and how much he respected the show and what he wanted to do. Those sets were gorgeous.
Right, I agree.
And I've said, like, those sets went 12, 16 feet tall sometimes, and you never got up above an actor's head. But the detail and the painting that went up to the cornices, like, he didn't stop. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah. I found that really rather amazing, the quality of work that got turned out so quickly.
So quickly.
Yeah.
Construction was great. Matt Haynes, construction was phenomenal on that. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how we got about this. We're talking about, what are we talking about? NYPD Blue, and then the SGSA, and now we're on Beep. See that?
There you go.
We're
exactly.
decorators. We made it work. Don't you just love his voice? I don't know. It's not that it puts me to sleep, but I find it very comforting. I do love his voice. I gotta say, I hope you found that as interesting as I did in talking with him, because I've heard his story before, but he really got into some detail there. But it's a struggle. And also the way he found his path. Being an actor and then going into set dressing. Like, you find these little paths and then you form a passion for things. So I have episode 2 of his interview coming up. And in this episode, he talks more about specific projects that he's been a part of, especially The Holiday, NYPD Blue. He gets into the details of shows that he's been a part of. So I hope you'll tune in. Decorating Pages is sponsored by Stogie Floaty. Float 'em if you got 'em. Visit stogiefloaty.com.